What's up? I have to start promptly at 9 here. Only 45 minutes until the game tonight, so we gotta move fast. Okay. Almost 9 o'clock, I think. Let me turn the old camera around. There I am, good as new. Let's get the standards up here just so we have something to reference. Alright, 9 o'clock, let's do it. Nightcap. Have to start here, I think. Obviously, I think, as most people know at this point, I was traded off CCM to YGG. I suppose that was last Friday, the 21st, on the final day of the trade deadline. Won't really spend too much time on that, I think, but what was huge following that trade, YGG played the Human Beings on Tuesday. I think that was Tuesday. We ended up winning the series 3-2, which, number one, huge for our playoff chances. YGG was before last week's games was kind of sitting on the bubble, and we still are. But now we've got a 15-point cushion on LBT. LBT's got 2 series left to play, and then one of those series is against us. So really, our playoff destiny is in our own hands at this point. So winning that series against THB was huge. And I think the opposite side of that series is that this team, I think that a lot of people, including myself, thought was like a clear cut, level above the rest of the league in THB. I just don't think it's true. I was most struck by on Tuesday, and I was just struck by how non-dominant Sin was, which is kind of weird to say. And he did have, I think his game 2, he had one his more patented Sin stat games, like 20 returns, 25 tads, whatever it was, only 2 deaths. And after game 1, we won 5-1. And then we saw the performance from Sin in game 2. I kind of thought maybe it was a fluke and where it was going to be tough sledding the rest of the way. But really, I don't know. To me, Sin didn't play up to the level that I think I've been holding him to this season. And it makes the human beings, totally beatable, man. So I would be... I think at this point, after playing against that team, after winning that series, I don't know that there's any real clear-cut favorite to win the Super at this point. Again, I thought THB was that team. I think, again, clearly they're not. Especially if Sin's playing that way come playoff time. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. I thought Joy and Gleg were fine. But fine describes a lot of players in the league this season, right? So, nothing noteworthy out of Joy or Gleg, I think. And then Messi on the other side, felt like every game he was getting 3.5 minutes of hold, a couple of caps. But I don't know, we were still winning games. It was very odd. It was really strange to see him rack up a ton of stats and then we weren't winning. There was a moment on Sicilio, which was THB's home map, when I'm holding and Messi's chasing, and Water Wheel tells me, "Don't worry, Messi can't chase." And I'm kind of laughing, and I'm like, I mean, surely he's good enough to track me down here, right? And then I'm able to get by him and continue to hold. And I'm just kind of laughing to myself in Water Wheel. It's like, you're right, he can't really chase. And I wonder if, despite the offensive stats that he's putting up, does he contribute enough outside of the 3.5 minutes he's holding the flag to make THB a better team? That I don't really know the answer to. And then the other question is, does it really matter how good he is outside of those 3 minutes he's holding the flag? If he's holding the flag for 3 minutes, that's also a fair question. I think our series shows, yeah, it probably matters. Two of his losses, you look at game 3, we won Sardonica 4-3. Messi had 22 grabs for 326 hold, 2 caps, and we won that game 4-3. They outheld us by a minute and a half, and it really didn't seem to matter. So just something about just THB is not. They're not just this unbeatable team that I thought they were, and they had been fairly dominant. And we had a sub, that's true. But I would say Bolsack probably deserves to be in majors right now. He certainly played well on both sides of the flag for us. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, THB just not the team I thought they were. I think if they want to get back to that status, it's got to be Sin doing what I thought he was going to do preseason, and what he's done most of the season, to be fair. But how he played on Tuesday, that can't happen in playoffs, so then get knocked out. And certainly, if Messi's going to hold for 3.5 minutes and not contribute a ton elsewhere, I think Joy and Gleg probably have to step up their games too. But right now, I don't know. It's just it's a huge mess. I don't know who's going to come out on top at this point, which is it's exciting for sure. But different than I thought a different spot than I thought would be at this point in the season. I guess not. You look at the other week 4 games and some of the async stuff that's been played. I'm not really sure there's anything super surprising. I think CCM, again, I've kind of made my feelings known. I don't think we were a very good team when I was on the team. I don't know that they got better when Titan got traded to them. Now, that being said, after getting swept with me on the team, they do come back to win 1 game against another pretty good team, I think. But at this point, I think CCM's just out of the playoff race. They've got 2 weeks left to play, if I'm not mistaken. They've got an async game and a week 5 game. I think the miracle scenario is they have to sweep out. That would give them 30 points, which just barely, it puts them 7 points ahead of us. And then you would have to count on us getting swept against LBT. I don't know. I don't see it happening. I think CCM's out. So then that 3 weeks left. Let me count. 4. They played. Hold on. 4, 6, 20. Oh, you're right. So I stand a little corrected. I thought they had played a game this week. So they play PCB, they play LBT, and they play THB. Okay, I thought they'd play that THB game for some reason, maybe. So maybe not as dire as I thought, but again, I still struggle to see how they're going to win enough games. Points-wise, it's not that crazy of a jump, but you've got PCB, who's been playing really well, and PCB just took 3 out of 5 against Portland Tile Blazers, who've really made a surge up the standings as of late. LBT is going to be in a battle for their playoff life, so you wonder if CCM can take a couple games off them, another bubble team, but, equally as motivated to make playoffs. And then obviously the CHB, regardless of the struggles they had against us, I don't know that I see those same struggles happening against CCM. LBT CCM tonight, huh? Okay. So that'll be informative. That's definitely a huge series for YGG to watch, right? Because as it stands, LBT is our main competition for that last playoff spot. I think PCB just a little too good and too many games left for us to finish above them, unless maybe we sweep LBT next week. But you're certainly hoping, from our point of view, that CCM and LBT split games here, with CCM probably winning 3 out of 5 is your hope. I don't know if I see that. I think the one thing you like if you're CCM against LBT is that LBT gives up a ton of caps. I mean, it is absurd how many caps they give up. They've got 2 series left to play. They have 148 caps against. That is highest in the league. And I think everyone, aside from CCM, has 2 or fewer series left. So they're up there. And I think adding Titan, Titan certainly adds some offensive flair that maybe I didn't have. So you do wonder, maybe can CCM win some high-scoring games here? I don't think that's out of the question. So potential room for optimism. I think I got beast mode in the waiting room, so let me drag him in. Hey, what's up, Beast?
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Not too much. How are you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
I'll tell you. Sorry, I had your stream open and then I started hearing myself and it got mad trippy, so I had to mute it.
Yeah, all good.
I had a food in my mouth, but I just swallowed it. I'm eating kimchi right now. Highly recommend.
Nice.
Great source of probiotics. Have you ever given a take about asynchronous? Is that what async stands for? Asynchronous weeks yet?
I've not given a take about it, no.
Alright. So here's my take. It's a fucking disaster. So if you want a rundown of what's going to happen in 49 minutes from now, I have a async game that's scheduled Turns out two of my players can't make it anymore. Turns out I'm playing against Goat. Two of his players can't make it either, so we're going to be just begging mLTP players to play for us, but all of their async games are scheduled for them. And I guess it's because we're the two last place teams in minors that like our players don't want to show up for us, which rightfully I don't really blame them for it. But in what world is this a good idea for a league where people only really want to play one time a week? To do this versus just have a 5-game season, I think 5-game season would have been a lot better.
I think I'm inclined to agree. I think the only thing I'll say is it did not have to wait until the last week possible for everyone to play their async games. Like, if there had been some sort of enforced deadline to play your first async game halfway through the season, and then maybe your second async game 2 weeks before playoffs, I don't think we'd see the pile up that we're getting now. And then I think DEPs are probably not helping the issue either, right? Because they've got to play async games for 2 tiers.
Definitely, for sure, the DEP part of it is what really complicates everything. I think you're just victim blaming when you're talking about like you should have scheduled it at a different time. Like,
well,
personally, I've been like super busy. I haven't been able to play since I don't know when I had a different team, basically.
I hear you, but we've also had 7 weeks to schedule 2 games, and it seems like a lot. And maybe not to any fault of your own, but it seems like a lot of teams are waiting until the last second when they probably could have scheduled them earlier too.
But yeah, that's all I had to say. If you want to look at a really funny game, see who we're fielding at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Because I know who's on my team. Goat doesn't know either.
Nice.
We're probably going to be like going back and forth, like convincing the best mLTP players who join the group to join our team for the game. So,
do you have a chance at playoffs still or no?
I haven't done the math. I'm just out here trying to do my best every single week.
And that's all you can ask, man. Yeah. All right.
Well, that's it.
All right. Thanks very much.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself, but I lied a little bit when I said I hadn't had a take on async weeks before. Asynchronous is that how I think we pronounce that. I think last time we did the Nightcap, we talked about having that enforced deadline for async 1 halfway through the season, and then playing your second async game during the second half of the season. I think to B's point, most people aren't really trying to play 2 games a week, even though I'd say most people are scrimming at least 2 times a week, so I kind of question that. But it made scheduling, I don't know, it's annoying, right? Because you don't mind scrimming with subs, you definitely don't want to play your games with subs. And it definitely introduces some uncertainty when you're not sure when two of your 7 games are going to be. So I can understand that frustration. I guess I'd be curious if any of you guys in chat, Russ or anyone, if you would have preferred playing 5 games this season. And while you answer that, let me go back to majors here. So we talked a little bit about CCM, just to double back on that. Again, I think they're going to have a chance to maybe win some shootouts against LBT tonight. How that goes, kind of informs us, YGG, on what we need to do to make playoffs next week. And like I said, I think anyone who makes the playoffs, they're going to have a feasible chance at making it to the Super this season. I just don't really see a clear favorite out of any of these teams. Every single one that's shown some promise, like THB, like Portland, like With the People, like MILF Manor, each one of them has had moments and weeks where they've tripped up. Like, you look at With the People, lost 2 out of 5 against LBT, who probably won't make playoffs, right? You had PTB lose 2 out of 5 against CCM when I was on the team, which again, I don't think we were a very good team when I was on the squad. That's certainly concerning. They've tripped up elsewhere. They lost 3 games out of 5 to PCB. It's just, I don't know, it's just this big blob in this big blob of teams where I think anyone can beat anyone, which again is going to make for a really cool playoffs. You had a sub? Yeah, so did we. We beat the quote-unquote best team in the league, dude. Win with your subs. I don't know what to tell you. The flu versus PCB is just the biggest cope I've ever heard, dude. Huge cope. Yeah, so that's majors right now. Yeah, man. We can. I think I've made it pretty clear, but I think your final 6 playoff teams, you're gonna have PTB, Weed the People, Human Beings, Milf Manor. Really, the teams that are in a playoff spot now, that's who I think are gonna make it. So you finish out with YGG and PCB, right? I think LBT and CCM end out of the playoffs at the end of it. Yeah, any one of those hits win the Super. I'm not shocked by that. All right, we can talk a little minor league here. So minors for a little while there, for the first 2-3 weeks, was very similar to majors, I thought, in that there was really no clear number one. Although at the time I thought THB was up there, right? But really no clear number one team, and it was just kind of a big blob of pretty good teams, and depending on the day, any team could win. I think in the past 2 weeks, as async games get played, as week 4 got played, I really think we've seen separation between the teams that can win a Mooper and those that cannot, as we've started to get teams playing more opponents and really understanding where everyone fits in. I think your top 4, and the games, I believe it was last night that Holden and I played their game. So it was a top 3 prior to the last time Holden and I played. I think we're in the top 4 now, who can actually realistically go compete for a Mooper. So you've got Milf Minor, Holden and Sets, Holden and I, and then Portland Tile Blazers. I think those are your 4 teams that can actually compete for a championship in minors this season. And speaking of getting clarity, I thought TCM might have been one of those teams, and then Holdman just absolutely waxed them last week. I mean, that series was so out of control. I remember Sardonica game where it was, a 4-2 lead for Holdman, and then in the last 2 minutes it ballooned to 8-9-2 or whatever it was. And I mean, it was just shocking and it was like that across multiple games. On our home map, it was an 8-cap win. We had another blowout win on, maybe it was Sardonica again. But yeah, TCM really fell short of what I thought they were, and really Holdman solidified themselves, I think, as a Mooper contender last week. I think the interesting thing is, and it's really maybe not all that interesting, more obvious, but each of these teams, well, let me back up. So pre-draft for minors, you look at the draft board, and I think everyone's pretty certain I'm going to get 2 balls that have played minors before, may have played majors, and it's going to be really hard to fill out the rest of my roster. And I think at the time I had said that depending on how you fill those 3rd and 4th slots, that's really going to determine, how you finish this season and your chances at a championship. I think we're seeing that play out some. And I think especially for those teams that have managed to fill their third ball spot with someone who maybe not necessarily was regarded highly, but still had that high level experience, they're seeing success, right? So, for example, you look at my team, Holden Sets. You have obviously Casley DPing for a Majors team right now. You have who was our first ball in the draft, right? PK is the prelim, who you can consider our third ball, which is, he's played minors for several seasons now. He's got a Mooper under his belt. You've got Easy, who's our second ball. Again, it's kind of, fallen off maybe skill-wise the last few seasons, not playing at the major standard he used to play at, but has played at a majors level, has played at a highly competitive minors level. So we got three balls who have this experience, talented in their own rights for sure, but just have that experience against better talent. I think it's really paying off for us. And you throw in Marcus, who doesn't always make the greatest decisions, but is so mechanically talented, and I think that makes Holden such a huge threat. And you kind of see that formula with these other top teams, right? Like you go look at Portland, and you've got Russ, who has played at a high minors level for some time now. You've got Budden, kind of in the same boat, although he's switched positions. He's always been one of minors' best offenders, and I believe he's gotten majors minutes in the past as an offender. So, even on defense, I think he's still a huge asset. And then the key, I think, was when they were able to drop balls to you for CB and then trade CB the Vic. Now suddenly, again, they have that third player who has that experience. Vic, similar to a Budden, has gotten some majors minutes and has played at a pretty high minors level for the past couple of seasons, right? So they got that third player. I think it's making a huge difference for him. MILF Minor holding IO7, not 007, not really holding to that. You look at MILF Minor, you got Dino and Omni. Those are your clear number two balls who kind of fit that criteria, or number one to number two. But then as your third and fourth balls, you get Freak and Trapson, who, while they don't have a ton of minors experience, just won a Nooper on defense together and clearly have chemistry. And I think that's making up for some of the lack of experience that they have. And then lastly, Holden and I, out of those four, again, I think not quite, that third ball spot doesn't quite have the experience that maybe, Holdman or PTB has, but Jur 32 and Ballsack are, very much like Dino and Ami, just a really good starting two to your team. And then they had to drop Cockpit Jones for Admania, which is unfortunate, but I think Admania's filled in very nice for them. He's been able to sub minors before. And then they've got JKSS, who has really improved in the offseason. So yeah, man, I think that those third, fourth spots are so big for all these teams, and all of these teams have hit on them, right? And it's such an obvious thing to say, but these players coming into the season weren't held to that. People didn't expect them to perform what they had been. I think people thought freaking Trapson had potential. I obviously wanted Trapson on the team. I thought he had potential. Marcus has had the stats in novice. PK is kind of always disrespected, right? Cockpit Jones was a complete unknown, and Mania gets subbed here and there, but never really gets a chance at full minutes. JKSS certainly hasn't been given a chance. And I don't just these third and fourth balls are really showing that they belong in the league, and it's really helping the teams separate themselves from the rest of the league, I think. So yeah, there's your top four for me. I'd be curious to know if you guys think am I missing anyone out of those top four? And if not, out of those top four, who do you think there's a clear-cut favorite? To me, I'm not really sure. I think, again, I value that third, having that experience in your third and fourth spots. I value that so highly. I think PTB and Holtman Sats are probably my top two. But I'd be curious to know if you guys disagree with that. Gonna pause real quick. Link the Discord and Twitch chat. Again, if you have a take you want to talk about, either majors, minors, don't really do novice here, but we could talk a little novice if you really wanted to. Hop in that Discord link, join the Nightcap waiting room voice channel. We'll get you in. The best fourth ball in the league from Button. Well, again, I think it's on one of these top teams, right? So then the question becomes, who do you think is their fourth ball? I think for Holden I, it's Edmania. I think for Holdman, it's Marcus Yellow. For MILF Minor, that's a hard one to answer. I think Freak is probably who I'd consider their fourth ball. And then PTB, I think the obvious answer is Tinder. And out of those four, they're all pretty good. To me, it's either Marcus or Freak. I don't know if I buy that. Maybe Marcus or JK it says. But I didn't. No, I'm sorry. He's third, right? Yeah, so I think Marcus or Freak it's probably my fourth. Is he really the 10T Gasp? That can't be right. But I watched the games. You know, I've watched some of Big Bad streams of his team, and I don't know. I feel like Trapson's playing a little bit better. Is that crazy? Like, I'm quickly looking at stats here. It's not that crazy stat-wise. Trapson is just behind. I mean, Trapson and Freak are the leaders in prevent right now, 1-2. And then Freak's 30 returns ahead of Trapson. So maybe I'm hyping Trapson a little too much, but they're not separated by much. And just for the games I've watched, I thought Trapson has played pretty well. It's interesting, though. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at something here. And I guess the question is then, if you have this top four in minors, are there any dark horse candidates that don't seem like they can compete for a championship right now that may? That's a hard one to answer. I think, Mercury Revolution sits in fifth in the standings right now. Holdman had a really good series against them. Holden and I had a really good series against them. I think that was, again, last night. I really question if they could make a run. I think out of the teams, again, that are currently in the playoff picture, so that'd be Mercury, that'd be Bottle Otters, Jukebox Heroes, and TCM. It feels like Bottle Otters probably have the best shot at it. For all the struggles comparatively that he's had compared to the last time he played, I think tight end is still, one of the premier offensive threats in minors. I think getting Poopy for Spheroid has probably done just like wonders for their mental, right? And he's been capping a lot too, which is, a huge deal. Bottle Otters actually swept Beef Sloppios last week, and they, aside from a 3-2 game on Merrill, which is like kind of standard, right? They didn't score below 7 caps. So they go 8-4, 7-4, 10-2, 3-2, and 7-4. So, I mean, you're at the point where Poobie's capping a ton. Titan is still a huge asset on offense. And the Jarvis Joe defense, I think, not great, but good enough. Jarvis certainly can play well enough to win the Mooper. He's done so in the past. I think Joe Hobo's your question there, but I think out of those remaining 4 teams that are in the playoff picture, Bottle Otters probably have the best chance to actually like make a serious run at it. I don't recall if they had Poobie when they played Holden and I. They did. So they went 3-2 against Holden and I. So maybe I'm underrating Bottle Otters a little bit. Should they be in that conversation? Or should Holden and I be out of it? I was just so convinced by Holden and I beating down on Mercury Revolutions the other day that I thought that really cemented them as a Mooper contending team, but maybe I'm overreacting. I didn't think super highly of them really before. I thought maybe that move for Edmania stabilized them a little bit. But I don't know, maybe Bottle Otters is that team. Again, I mean, Poobie's just capping so much. He's capping so much, man. He's 4th on the cap board right now. And again, I get it, async weights and all that. Maybe they played more games or haven't, whatever. But man, you know, maybe Bottle Otters are deserving of that 4th spot in our top tier. Now that I think about it. No real drama, I think, in the standings, right? Unlike majors, I think it's fairly clear who's in and who's out. I say that you have Beef Salapios and Boater Spirit. You know, Boater Spirit sits within 10 points of TCM right now. Trying to count their games played. So give me a second. TCM's played 20. Boater Spirit's played 25, so Tad's got a series in hand. Beef Salapios have also played 25, so again, TCM's got a series in hand. So really, Beef Salapios probably have to get, if you assume TCM's able to get 6 points, they're 14 down. They're 11 down on JBH, who has the same number of games played. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yes, same number of games played. So it can be really hard to challenge JBH for their spot. And I just don't know about TCM, right? Two series in hand for TCM, that's going to be really hard to catch too. I think what's fortunate for Beast Salapios is you play Boater Spirit, and like you heard Beast say, both sides going to have subs tonight. I think Beast Mode's going to have 2. So chance for Beef Salapios to get points here. If they do that, let's say they're able to get a sweep or 4 wins out of 5, now that certainly changes things. Salapios finished their season against Mercury Revolutions, who have been, as we talked about, kind of faltering towards the end of the season here. TCM would finish up with Holden IO7 and JBH. I don't know, it'd be tight, man. Right? Because you think Holden and I probably takes 4 out of 5 against TCM. So if Beef Salapios get, 12 points tonight, they get 15 points tonight, who knows, man? Just saying, PTB hasn't played a single week with the same roster yet and has the best win percentage. Yeah, and I think that's definitely why the argument's there that you guys are a Mooper contender, right? I'm not going to really glaze you any more than that, but I think talked about the trades. I don't know if I talked about the trade on the Nightcap. I don't know if we did a post-trade deadline Nightcap, but I thought the Vic ad was just so big for you guys. CB was stuck on O, which I think is what you had to do, but not a natural offender, right? So you add Vic to fix your position problem, and just judging from the scores, and I caught a little bit of your last game, such a huge boost for your offense. Now Russ goes back to D. And it just fits your lineup so much, right? And Tinderfell is certainly competent enough to play against a good with alongside a good offender like Vic is. And not only does Vic play good offense, he does everything pretty well, I've always been impressed playing against him with what he does with when the flag is not in his hands, right? I think his OD's really good. He makes really good decisions about when to push out and things like that. Don't know how he stands on the puck boards, but feels like he's at very least aware and tries to communicate. And yeah, so I think Vic was just a huge ad for you. So we got a few more minutes here. We're probably close enough to the end of the regular season. We could do some awards predictions if we wanted. Really hard to pick an MVP for me. We can start minors. Hard to pick an MVP. I think for as good as PTB's been, to Budden's point, you guys have changed rosters so much. I don't know that there's a guy on your team, a player on your team that's clearly like a favorite for MVP. To that same point, not that we've been changing our roster up, but I don't know that Holdman really has that player either. Casway's obviously been a huge, driving force behind our success, but just everyone on the team is playing so well. It's hard for me to say that any one of them is head and shoulders above the rest and deserves that recognition. I think they're all playing well. So then my eyes start to turn. Is there a player on Holden Eye? Is there a player on MILF Minor? And maybe on Bottle Unders that deserves it? I think my mind initially goes to Omni for MVP. Saw him week 1. Thought he played incredibly well. He's continued to play incredibly well this season. Currently number 1 on the cap board by a sizable margin. Second in hold. Spheroid. I think Spheroid probably gets MVP of content, right? Yeah, so I'd probably go Omni for your MVP, and then I kind of like to do it where you don't have the MVP win their positional award. So in that case, OBOS, Pooby's making his case right now. Pooby's definitely making his case. I think Marcus potentially too has an argument. I think a couple good options there. And a DBOS to me, it's got to be Ballsack. I don't think that's an argument. Yeah, so I think those are my big 3 award winners right now. I probably go Omni for MVP. I go Ballsack 1, 2, 3 for DBOS. And then I'm qualifying, should he finish the season well, Pooby might win my OBOS, which sounds kind of crazy with how bad Butter Spirit was. But since he's gotten on Bottle Otters, he's been on a tear. I don't know. And maybe you give Irony that nod. I think, or even Jur too. I don't know. OBOS is going to be a tough one. There are a lot of deserving players, I think. I don't think it's as clear cut as GBOS. And of course, if you're allowing MVP to win OBOS, I think it's Omni there too, right? So yeah, the bid 3 for minors, and then let's go majors really quick. MVB, again, kind of hard because I don't think any team's particularly dominant, right? Like who's most responsible for their team's success and who's a good team? That's a hard one to answer. Like you look at a team like We the People, again, like Anti's having a great season. Great season. But like I watched them play and I think they all play pretty well, you know? I don't know. I mean, to me, majors MVB is hard. I don't think it's Sin right now. I really don't. You know, I think Freak is probably in the conversation. And then after that, I'm not really sure. You can throw Anti in. You know, you could talk about Messi, but again, you kind of go back to what I was talking about at the start of the program. You know, does the offensive stats, I think, does that outweigh what he's not doing? And I don't know, it's a little incomplete data-wise, right? Because I've only, you know, I played against him the one time. I'll stream him here tonight, so I'll get to watch a little bit more of his gameplay. But right now, I'm not, like, super sold that his offense is worth everything else. So I guess MVB's maybe Freak for me right now. I don't know, it's a hard one to answer. OBOS, you could probably give it the Anti. And then DBOS, maybe Kelvin. I don't know, I think similar to MVB, it's hard. I don't know that anyone's like, again, if you're not counting Freak, right? Because we have him winning MVP, no one's really, I think, distinguished themselves. Alright, so I got a game link from Messi. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna end this stream here. Thank you all for tuning into the pre-game nightcap. I'll restart the stream in about 30 seconds, and we will stream THB versus ILF here in a couple minutes. So let me shut down. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.